You want to know the truth about ghosting? Fine. Here it is, without perfume, without sentiment, without the soft emotional anesthesia people use to make abandonment feel poetic. When a man disappears, he's not executing some brilliant strategic maneuver. He's not ascending into higher consciousness. He's not moving with masculine decisiveness. Most of the time, he's simply running from the mirror. Disappearance is the coward's final illusion of power, the ultimate vanishing act performed by someone who fears the consequences of his own presence. But for women, the aftermath of ghosting becomes a kind of psychological theater. Not because they still want the man, but because the sudden silence disrupts the script they thought they were performing. You replay the conversations. You rewrite the ending. You imagine what you should have said, what you shouldn't have revealed, what you should have done differently. Ghosting is not painful because of the man. It's painful because of the unfinished narrative he leaves behind. Humans hate blank pages more than they hate bad endings. And this is where most women get trapped. They think the person who leaves first wins something. They think the one who shuts the door is the one who holds the power. But ghosting is not a power move. It's an escape hatch. It's emotional bankruptcy disguised as mystery. You are not dealing with a strategist. You are dealing with someone who uses absence as a shield, because presence demands accountability. This is a situation someone asked me in the coaching link. I made it public because that person gave consent. And if you're wondering how much this cost, it's $25. Yes, 25. A lot cheaper. Because I'm going to use their situation as a lesson for others. Don't forget to thank that person for this topic. Let's talk about the aftermath. The psychological residue left when someone vanishes after months or years of emotional intensity. These digital or long-distance dynamics make it worse. They create the illusion of depth without the weight of reality. Two people can exchange messages for years and still have a bond more fragile than glass. That's the curse of emotional holograms. They reflect you back at yourself, so you mistake your own projection for intimacy. He pursued you. He depended on you. He fed on your attention like a man starving for validation. He showed up even in his darkest hours because he needed the emotional anesthesia you provided. You became his anchor, his confessional, his audience. And as long as you played the quiet, receptive figure in the shadows, he felt supported, seen, admired, stabilized. But men like this don't want stability from a woman. They want containment. They want someone to absorb their chaos without requiring them to transform it. They want intimacy without responsibility. Connection without commitment, closeness without consequences. They want a woman who holds space for them, but doesn't demand they step into the world as a man. And the moment you withdrew, even subtly, the illusion began to crack. He felt it. Men always feel it when the emotional atmosphere changes, even if they cannot articulate it. When your responses slowed, when your emotional availability thinned, when you stopped giving him the psychological nutrients he was addicted to, he panicked. Not externally. Externally he stayed cool. But internally, the scaffolding he built with your presence began to sway. According to research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, individuals with unstable attachment structures interpret emotional withdrawal from a partner as a threat to their self-concept rather than a neutral shift. In simple terms, your distance felt like annihilation to him, not because he loved you deeply, but because he depended on you psychologically. That is the real reason he vanished. He didn't walk away. He fled. Silence was his way of avoiding the humiliation of facing that shift in power. Because make no mistake, The moment you stopped playing your role, the dynamic inverted. He no longer felt like the pursuer. He felt like the one being left behind. And men with fragile egos cannot endure the sensation of being secondary in their own fantasy. So he made one final move that allowed him to pretend he had initiative. He disappeared. But ghosting is not a choice. It's a symptom. Women always misunderstand this part. They think, he left first, therefore I lost. No, he left because you withdrew first. The emotional rupture came from your side, not his. You changed the ecosystem. You stopped providing. You stopped responding at the frequency he needed. You stopped playing the stabilizing force in his life. You walked away long before he did. You simply walked quietly. Men like him don't know how to handle quiet exits. They expect dramatic exits. Tears, confrontations, emotional storms. They want the woman to scream so they can tell themselves they were desired. But you gave him nothing but silence. And silence is more devastating than any outburst. Silence is the mark of a woman who is already gone internally. So he vanishes to save face. And because he vanished first, you confuse the sequence of events. You think he closed the door. You think you were left behind. But what you're feeling is simply the shock of a chapter ending without a punctuation mark. It's not loss. It's narrative interruption. Let me tell you something uncomfortable but necessary. Walking away is not defined by who leaves the room. It's defined by who stops playing the game. Walking away is psychological, not physical. It happens in your mind long before it happens in your behavior. You walked away the moment you stopped offering him your emotional labor. You walked away the moment you slowed your responses. You walked away the moment you realized the dynamic was structurally unsound. You walked away the moment you stopped giving him the version of you he relied on to stabilize himself. He didn't leave. You ended the dynamic by removing the fuel that powered it. He simply reacted to your shift. That's all ghosting ever is. Reaction disguised as initiative. Now the real question, how do you reclaim your power after ghosting? How do you close a chapter that feels half-written? How do you remove the residue of someone who slipped out the back door without giving you the courtesy of an ending? You reclaim your power by rewriting the narrative. When someone disappears, your mind rushes to fill the void with self-blame, overthinking, fragmented memories, 1,000 hypothetical what-ifs. You treat their exit as a verdict, but ghosting is not a verdict. It is data. It reveals their capacity, not your worth. It shows you their emotional ceiling, not your deficiency. You reclaim your power by recognizing that the disappearance was not an abandonment. It was an exposure. His exit revealed the limit of his emotional competence. His silence revealed the fragility of his attachment. His inability to stay revealed that the connection was never sustainable in the first place. You were propping up the illusion. You were carrying the weight. You were maintaining the dynamic with your consistency, your presence, your patience, your quiet emotional labor. You reclaim your power by understanding that you were never left. You were freed, and that is the shift he feared the most. There is a very specific moment, so subtle most women never detect it, when a man realizes you're afraid to lose him. It happens in the micro-expressions you don't notice yourself making, in the slight tremor of hesitation when he pulls away, in the way your energy folds into itself, like a servant awaiting a verdict. The moment he senses that fear, the balance of power shifts with the quiet violence of a guillotine blade. You don't hear it fall. You just wake up on the other side of it, wondering how you went from being desired to being tolerated. Men don't need emotional intelligence to sense fear. Instinct does the work. Primitive, unfiltered, embarrassingly accurate. They smell insecurity like predators smell blood. And the scent alone transforms even the most mediocre man into a self-appointed emperor of your psyche. He may not deserve the throne, but fear crowns him anyway. And please, don't give men too much credit. They aren't consciously analyzing the shift. They don't sit there thinking, "Ah, yes, she is now afraid. I shall adjust my strategy." No. Their subconscious registers the change long before their neurons catch up. It appears in their posture, in the slow erosion of effort, in the subtle entitlement that grows like mold between the cracks of the connection. Men respond to fear, not with sympathy, but with opportunism. Your fear makes them bold in all the wrong ways. Bold enough to become inconsistent. Bold enough to cancel plans. Bold enough to half-text, breadcrumb, and drip affection like a faucet that only works when it feels like it. Because fear tells them you're already conquered, and conquered territory doesn't require maintenance. Watch a man the moment he senses he has you. His texts don't just slow down, they become structurally incompetent. His tone doesn't just cool, it becomes dehydrated. His presence doesn't just fade, it becomes a ghost of its former self. He goes from attentive to distracted, from engaged to vaguely irritated that you still exist. And here is where the tragedy, yes, the Shakespearean tragedy, occurs. Most women respond to this decline by trying harder. They tighten their grip. They become more accommodating, more available, more emotionally generous, imagining that kindness will seduce consistency. They don't understand that men respond to abundance by devaluing the source. Give them more affection, and they treat it like background noise. Offer them certainty, and they feel suffocated. Display devotion, and their minds drift to all the women who aren't devoted. Men desire from a distance. They lose interest at close range. This is the paradox that sabotages millions of women. The woman feels him slipping, so she invests more. The man senses her escalating investment, so he slips further. A tragic loop, repeated endlessly, by people who don't understand the psychological choreography they're dancing. Here's the brutal science behind it. A 2018 study in the journal Evolutionary Psychology found that when one partner perceives the other as more committed, they instinctively reduce their own investment to maintain psychological leverage. In plain English, the moment he senses you care more, he cares less. Not because he's malicious, because he's evolutionarily cheap. Your fear signals overcommitment. His detachment is the response. And he doesn't need evidence, just a hint, a tonal shift, a softer voice, a quicker reply, a sudden willingness to forgive without explanation. Men detect these shifts the way animals detect weather changes. It's instinctual. They can't explain it. They just react. But here's the part I enjoy observing most. The reversal. When a woman stops fearing the loss of a man, everything changes. Her tone steadies. Her boundaries become decisive, not decorative. Her nervous system stops auditioning for approval. She becomes clear, grounded, sovereign. She doesn't withhold affection. She simply stops overgiving. She doesn't become colder. She becomes expensive. Men call women like this intimidating. What they really mean is, I cannot manipulate her with inconsistency. I cannot control her with silence. I cannot keep her with breadcrumbs. I cannot read her fear because she has none. And this terrifies them more than rejection ever will. Because suddenly, they are the ones afraid to lose something. And men have no script for that fear. Their bravado dissolves. Their jokes lose their timing. Their confidence becomes a costume slipping off at the seams. A man who was once lazy becomes vigilant. A man who once mirrored to protect himself now mirrors because he wants to keep up with you. A man who once retreated now advances because he senses the cliff beneath his feet. That's the moment the game reverses. When you stop fearing the loss of the man, he starts fearing the loss of himself. If you want to master this dynamic, study fear, its presence and its absence. These are the currencies of attraction, far more than beauty, charm, or even love. Now go listen again. Let it recalibrate the way you move. And when you're ready to stop playing on instinct and start playing with intention, pre-order The Feminine Game. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching. And if today's message bruised your ego a little, good. Growth requires impact.